experts discuss the talent troubles in the industry. As the moderator for this session, we have Mr. Kunal Vasudeva, co-founder and MD, Indian School of Hospitality. Mr. Vasudeva co-founded ISH with the mission of transforming hospitality education in India. Leveraging his comprehensive understanding of the education landscape, exceptional networking abilities, and business acumen, he has steered ISH to become an industry benchmark. Joining him on stage are Ms. Anjali Dureja, Managing Director, Executive Search, Hotelivate, Ms. Diya Suri, Vice President People, Third Wave Coffee, and Mr. Gaurav Pokharial, Executive Vice President, Human Resources, IHCL. Please give them a warm welcome.
Second seat.
Thank you.
The third seat.
Third seat from?
The fourth, from here. Salam. Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Adab. Thank you for sticking around for the penultimate session today. I believe the next session is called Leaders on Fire. Let's smoke this session first. This catatonic one-liner has stuck with me for some time now. Whatever you see in India, the opposite is also true. Whatever you see. Yesterday, Peter Elber spoke about the fact that the percentage of women pilots in India is 12%. I think it's about 15 now, against a world average about 5. The opposite is also true. The latest report, economic report, also suggests that 50% of all urban women who have postgraduate degrees are out of the workforce by choice. The opposite is also true. Now, this paradox has intrigued me as a citizen, as a consumer, and of course, as a business person as well. There's another paradox. In the next 4 or 5 years, we are today the 5th largest economy. We will be the 4th largest economy by GDP numbers. And yet at the same time, we are bottom 5 percentile when it comes to per capita GDP. The opposite is also true. And that's the India. That's the Bharat. When you place these two facts side by side, it shows the complex nature in which we operate our businesses here in India. We see giant leaps forward, but at the same time we see significant hurdles in our progress. But this also points out that we need to be very careful, we need to tackle challenges from many angles, especially hospitality business, and especially the manpower problem, which I believe as an upstream, as education, we have today. I don't want to sound alarmist, but I still want to share a narrative, not through data or graphs. Narrative number 1. I had the beautiful pleasure to head India's largest vocational education company in 2006 for 8 years. Conversations around the hospitality table, we don't have quality manpower. What was the problem? My company tried to do it in its small way. We provided about 3,500 each year. 2024, same problems, same conversations. We have a problem with quality manpower. Not quantity, quality. Where is the problem? There is a new challenge confronting us, and take it from upstream people who are in education. And I'll explain to you what this problem is. the number of students today in hospitality and culinary is decreasing. The industry is growing CAGR 4.6, aviation is maybe growing 8-10, retail must be growing much more than that. But the number of students each year there's a degrowth of 12%, which essentially means 3 years from now, at best, quality people, you will not have more than 3,000 into the workforce. That's a problem. The decline prompts a critical question we need to ask ourselves. Is the aspirational value degrowing amongst the 18-year-olds who are the next in line to join the hospitality industry? I'll give you a stats. Indian School of Hospitality, we speak last year, in fact, until last month, we spoke to 15,000 students in school. In school, detailed conversations. And guess what? 95% of them didn't even want to talk hospitality. But that's not what the story is. The story is here. In the 5%, it was the bottom 7th or 8th career choice. Literally 100% of the people who we spoke with, and the length or the breadth of the country, except certain regions in the Northeast. That's a problem, ladies and gentlemen. But the dichotomy is here again. We have entered, you have entered a booming service economy, global economy, right? Nobody can argue that. And despite hospitality education's critical role in fueling this booming experience economy, it is relegated to niche or at best vocational education. So we are consuming more. We want our hospitality graduates to lead the economy, but the society perception relegates this to just a skill-based program, and hence the 10 and 12% decline. I am here to argue in front of all of you that hospitality is not a niche, it is not a vocation. And in my opinion, it is the foundational pillar upon which the future workforce will be built. So I'm keen to discuss how we can collectively make hospitality as a career choice, you and I, upstream and downstream, for the next generation. Introducing our panelists, each leader in his, her own right. We have Gaurav Pokharial, welcome. You all know where Gaurav Pokharial, he's from IHCL, he's the Executive Vice President, veteran with 30 years of cross-functional leadership. Diya, welcome, Vice President of People at Third Wave Coffee, known for our innovative HR practices, and we're going to talk about that as well. Anjali, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Our expertise provides a unique lens through which we understand the nuances of headhunting, especially top-tier talent, and we're going to talk about reverse migration. Gaurav, I need to ask you the first question. When you look back 30 years and when you reflect on IHCL's creative approaches to HR and talent recruitment, could you share your perspective on the current hospitality talent landscape? What's happening?
Thank you, Kunal. Just a quick background to where IHCL is at this moment in time. We are close to about 35,000 associates at IHCL, portfolio size of about 300. Next 3 years, we look at the manpower requirement doubling to close to about 50,000. And you know, when this subject was discussed with me, I was not sure whether there was a lack of talent as far as this industry is concerned. I think if we don't treat talent as one of the key strategic imperatives in our business, and we don't plan for it, it will always be an issue, whether hospitality is attractive or whether it is not attractive. I think when we operate at hotels, we still haven't been able to move away from the traditional career trajectories that we used to have. How in the world is that going to excite anybody who's young today? I think one thing that we've been experimenting with in the last 2 to 3 years is, can we actually offer diverse career trajectories? Can we actually build on a competency and learning frameworks? And can we actually have a relook at them every year? Can we actually restructure the organization every 6 months? I know it's very radical, but this is what excites the new talent of today. Do you understand what creates the employee value proposition today? To give you an example, a lot of youngsters that I actually engage with and interview today, they are not looking at becoming a general manager in 15 years or 20 years. We started off with an experiment and we ran a structured program called LAP. It's an accelerator program. The criteria were very, very stringent. It was cast in stone. We said we are not going to hire anybody from a catering college. We're going to go out in business schools. We're going to ask these people to have 2 years of work ex outside of this particular sector. And then we make a commitment of making you a GM in 5 years. The first batch has almost finished first 1 year. We've been able to retain all of them. There are check-in conversations which happen with these people because this is the first time we are running something like that. And we are very keen that we retain 80% of them and we turn most of them into general managers in the 5 years that are ahead of us. The other thing that I keep on speaking to leadership teams at the hotels, please do not tell your wartime stories to young prospective talent that is available out in the market. I was part of hardcore operations for good 28 years. I used to work for about 9 hours straight, and late in the evening if I'm hosting a function. Otherwise, in this particular sector, you can actually manage your work in 9 hours if you are truly working. And you have your priorities clearly laid out in front of you. So I think for us, if we have to communicate and build a narrative about this industry, it needs to come from senior leaders downwards. I think wartime stories of how I did 20 hours of shifts at a stretch are a passé now, and nobody's interested in those stories. I don't think we are setting ourselves as right role models if we continue actually regaling in the past. Because in the same breath you're trying to communicate that we run hospitality and hotels in a similar manner that we used to 20 years back, which is no longer relevant and no longer true.
Tell me something. Why do you think this whole big picture of hospitality remains elusive to students? Again, I'm talking upstream. As I said, we spoke and we reach out to about 15,000 students, right? We get about 300, 350. That's a different story. But if I always have this hypothesis, ladies and gentlemen, is what if in the next 3 years you require 250,000 talented hospitality professionals and India is producing only 30,000? Where is the remaining 220,000 going to come from? Because it takes 3 years, both as a skill and as a business acumen. How do we solve for this?
So that's a question
Yes.
to me? Okay. Two straight things that come at the top of my mind. Have a very clear structured career path for them. And as far as possible, please stick to that. put your skin in the game. To give you an example, we are starting a new culinary program shortly. We should be launching it in the month of August. We are looking at close to about 200 young professionals, just not young professionals, these are students coming out of class 12. We give you a career path of becoming an executive chef in 8 years. At the same time, hand-hold you to do your graduation simultaneously. Right? So when I say you need to have your own skin in the game, you take the responsibility of building this cadre over a period of 8 years, and you discharge your responsibility of making them an executive chef. Fortunately for us today, we are a house of brands. When we refer to the large hospitality chains, we necessarily don't refer to large format hotels anymore. Hotels are 50 rooms, 100 rooms. You can turn around professionals and make them general managers in 5 years. You have the ability, if you have a large presence in a geography, you have the ability to be able to leverage talent that's already available in terms of seniors, and should be able to make younger people take leadership roles in smaller format hotels. And the third thing which comes to my mind is, if you could, when you go and recruit, speak about what are the various options that you may have once you join hospitality. Okay? Today, ESG is emerging as one area of key importance as far as our sector is concerned. There's a tremendous career waiting for people to have the potential of making a career in that particular field. Revenue management is maturing across not only rooms, but in food and beverage, as we saw in the previous presentations. I wish when we interact and engage, we speak about these nuances in terms of careers to the potential talent that stands outside. If I have to give you a cut in terms of attrition levels, young executives in a tenure band of 0 to 2 years, I have same attrition levels as in retail, which is close to about 50%. And 90% of these are talented young professionals who leave you. And the ones who stay back are the ones who don't have an option. The only way to reverse this cycle and bring this attrition level down so that you can retain talent for a longer period of time is to do something in the first 2 years. Okay. And at that point in time, what matters to them is differentiated compensation structure, very personalized remuneration and reward and recognition, and thirdly, a clear career path.
I hear you. Diya, third wave coffee, startup vibrant culture has its own challenges and opportunities. 8 years ago, we were a startup. I can tell you, everyone would look down upon in terms of, hey, it's a startup, right? Who would kind of join? And it really, we had to upsell the company to the new talent, right? Especially right now, with the focus on volume, pan-national operations, and you have grown exponentially. How do you balance? How does third wave balance quality and quantity?
I think taking on from what Gaurav just mentioned, it's first about deciding what the company's strategy is. Are you going to go out and transactionally buy talent? What's your long-term perspective? How do you want to be perceived as an employer? So it was actually about sitting down and deciding that if the long-term call is to build talent, you start with that note, which means even when you transact initially and pick up talent that's ready to work in the outlets you're building and the cafes, you give them that clear articulation of career journey. And what works for a startup is the exponential growth. So you may not have the badge value yet, but if you can deliver on that exponential growth, ensure there is clarity in that career trajectory, you have aspirational youth who's willing to work and deliver that experience your brand is trying to build. And if you have that growth and you can show them 2 positions vis-a-vis where they are currently, you have them. And that helps you ensure you also service your consumers with consistency, because then you don't even have your stability issues. Because retention is as important as just getting them into your doors. Be it your NPS, be it your consumer experience that is getting measured every day, and the teams under them. So it's about addressing that canvas before you even go out and try to attract them.
Tell me something, hypothetically again, I think you have increased in stores across the country by about 150, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 1 year, right? Hypothetical situation. The leadership comes to you and says, we need to do this anyhow, another 250 stores in, let's say, 18 months. And you require 2,500 quality manpower, of course. How do you solve for that?
So, one is the minute you have growth, it helps you hang on to the talent you already have. It's about upskilling them for the next journey, ensuring they grow and you don't get in talent that's going to come and sit straightly, above them. The other piece is moving the power to the individuals in the front line. So what we've very consciously done is, when it comes to learning and development, make assessments, because you're picking up trainable talent from the market at the front line. You're not picking up skilled resource, the problem's the same, right? But can I take that aspirational youth and give him learning modules that allow him to decide or her to decide if she's ready to take on the next position? It's no longer about manager recommendation. It's no longer about saying you do those extra night shifts to decide whether you're worthy of that recommendation. And the minute you do that, open up transparent assessment portals, we are able to identify fast-track talent. You're able to look at youth who might be working with you, possibly just over weekends from graduate and IHM colleges across the country, who then look at longer-term journeys. So that's really helping. The second piece to fuel this growth is looking beyond just the hospitality, working with graduates and 12th standard students at the source. So a lot of the students passing out of 12th standard are applying for courses today without an end outcome in mind. So if you look at, I think very recently India Today had a study by Mercer that was published in December 2023, where they surveyed 2,500 campuses across 30 different states and union territories, 440,000 students, and they said 48% of the graduates passing out now in India are skilled, ready to be deployed. Unfortunately, nearly 50% of them are for the IT tech sectors, who started working on this as an industry a lot ahead of the game, right? So coming back 12th standard onwards, and graduates today have the aspiration, have the hunger to learn. And if we start partnering with them in a stage-wise manner, they generally succeed very well.
So the question is, does the industry go into schools first, or do education institutions go into the school first to change this perception?
So it's a parallel track. While we need to work on the ecosystem, and that's a longer term journey, the problem is you need the talent in 18 months, 12 months, you're opening a hotel tomorrow. You need that talent today, so you're solving two tracks. So while you're doing your MOUs with universities, you're trying to do the national apprenticeship program, you're working with talent at various levels. This really is about working both tracks together.
I'll just share a small story, short story. About 2 years ago, one of the QSR brands, I won't name for obvious reasons, came to us and they had a global mandate of having 50% of all area coaches. Area coaches are 5 stores that have 1 coach, right? Area managers for them. And the preconditions were 2. Lady, 5 years old experience, minimum, and ability to be mobile and get deputed into some other cities. They put it on their portal, we put it on our portal. We spent a lot of money in performance marketing, 400 applications, not 1, in fact just 2. That's it. Only 2 ladies eventually qualified. That's it. And the reason was pretty much, there were 26, 27, 28 in India. They fell out because of marriage, familial compulsions, cities which were not I would say, ready to accept them. The RWAs would not give them, rented accommodations. So the severity of the complexities is very large, but the opposite is also true. The opposite is also true. Anjali.
Hi.
You, apart from executive search, you are seeing hospitality professionals contributing to real estate, contributing to food tech, logitech, and I think those industries today are spawned by hospitality professionals, right? The entire aviation industry in the 90s decade were hospitality professionals. They wouldn't have been where they were today. I joined the aviation industry in 1993. I can responsibly tell you that. But concurrently, in your opinion, are we also seeing a trend for reverse migration? People, are they coming from FMCG? Are they coming from consumer electronics? Are they coming into the hospitality sector? Not necessarily operational roles, but across.
The only reason people are moving from hospitality sector, there are actually two reasons, if I may say so. One is, of course, compensation when you actually benchmark it against FMCG, against consumer durables, against retail. We are way behind. We are way behind. We really need to correct ourselves. And the second is the work-life balance. What FMCG offers you, consumer offers you, anything which is non-hospitality offers you, gives you a peaceful night sleep, which hospitality is sadly unable to. And Gen Z somewhere is unable to accept that. They want their pockets full, their hearts full. They just want to have a peaceful, happy life. Now that's Gen Z, but that's really crawling up the value chain as well, where the seniors, when we talk about professionals with 15 to 20 years of experience, if they have already exited the hospitality sector, the reversal is more or less impossible.
I hear that, Anjali. Prognosis is there, we know the problem. In your opinion, why isn't, let's say, a salesperson from Hindustan Unilever wanting to join this sector? If they are joining, I don't know, you need to let me know.
There are hotel brands in our country who are actually going a couple of steps ahead, and they're actually hiring from non-hospitality. There are a lot of functions in the corporates where that thought is going on and that action is being taken on the ground. But not all brands. And I think that needs to change. You need to start hiring from non-hospitality. You need to give that option out to headhunting firms, allowing them to give you a larger set of profiles so that you can actually go out and tell that we are equal opportunity employers.
So essentially two problems, Gaurav. The 12th standard youth are not seeing hospitality as a profession. The graduates are also not necessarily wanting to come over here. Is there a way, perhaps, the way the tech sector and the university synergized, synthesized in the 90s and the early 2000s to actually make what it is today? And I'll just give you a small example. When you just look at IT and computer science, India produces about 500,000. Now whether they're good, they're bad, we're not discussing that, for 150,000 jobs. So 1:3, 1:3.5. But in hospitality, it's absolutely the opposite. So we are not attracting talent at 12th standard, right? We are not attracting, let's say, the B school grads. It's more of an apprenticeship model which is happening. Airlines are doing that. Hotels are doing that. I'm sure the retailers is doing that. But again, that big picture. When can we see 250,000 students enrolled in hospitality after 12th? What specific measures we should do from an industry perspective?
So, let's get back to certain fundamentals which will go a long way in making this particular sector more attractive. And certain very small steps but which are extremely relevant in the context of this particular sector. How do you treat interns, industrial trainees, etc., when they have their first exposure of this particular industry? Who's the custodian of talent once they join you? Is it the human resources or is it the operations team? Now, these are the questions which have to be answered at certain point in time. Third is the perception of human resources as a function within this particular sector. Fourth, everybody speaks about diversity and inclusion. What are the initiatives that you've undertaken? To give you an example, I also run the ESG for IHCL. Till 2 years back, I had very little understanding of diversity and inclusion. Today, with certain very formidable partnerships with Harappa, so on and so forth, we run a multitude of initiatives in this particular direction. Why is it important? It is important because it creates a larger pool for you to actually source from as far as recruitment is concerned. We were at an abysmal 15% when it came to women working at IHCL. Today we've crossed 20% in the last 2 years. We've been able to make that giant stride. We run multiple women-related programs, whether it's leadership development for women at various levels, whether it's an allyship program or whether it's a sponsor program. I'd like to draw the attention to this particular program because it tends to allow an executive committee member to be a sponsor for a budding woman talent at the mid-management level and becomes her voice to the senior leadership team within the company. If we could genuinely ensure that human resources takes accountability of the young potential talent when he gets exposed to your industry, whether it is in form of an internship or whether it's in form of industrial training, takes that responsibility, builds a narrative which is positive for this particular sector. This sector is beautiful, the quality of life, etc., is something that I want to get into details of at this moment in time. But if we could build the right kind of narrative at that stage, right? They are expected to work for 9 hours, not 1 minute more than that. Who can take that responsibility in an organization? It needs to be somebody's responsibility. And the response needs to be extremely harsh if this is not complied with, because they are destroying generations and generations of potential talent walking into your sector. So, diversity and inclusion so that you can increase the size of pool that you recruit from. And how do you expose youngsters who join your organization and ensure that they have a better experience?
Thanks. Diya, tell me something. When you look at women at Third Wave Coffee especially, do you think the overall pool and the overall size is increasing because more women are participating in stores, or it doesn't really matter?
So there are two parts to it. One is how you're perceived as a brand, which even first gets the hands going up. So if you're considered a safe, secure place to work, you are considered a place where, women have fewer issues and they have a voice and they can get redressal really quick. You see applications immediately. The second part is staging what you want to create. So if the idea is to have 30% women as store managers or in leadership position, how do you start curating that as, it's just like role modeling. So do you have enough stores where you have enabled women to be there? Because then that creates the multiplier effect. The minute you have a female store manager, her ability to recruit women under her and then coach them into leadership positions is much higher. I think the bigger piece that needs to be addressed is how much of a business imperative it is and what's the seriousness or commitment you are willing to give it. And when I'm saying that, it's about then telling your operations managers that these are the numbers you expect them to develop as part of their growth trajectory, as part of their succession planning, and equipping them with that. So it's no longer an HR agenda, but you have skilled your operations folks to hire, to do the reviews, and take that decision and own that mantle.
Offline we were discussing and you were mentioning this very interesting aspect that you worked actually with the villagers, in the villages, turning that. Just can you recount that story for everyone?
Sure. So when you look at the community, right? So it's great when women are getting started, they are as aspirational as every other youth, and gender doesn't play a mix. So when they are fresh graduates, you're on an equal footing. But then comes life stage issues, marriage, where the husband becomes at times the person who decides whether she will work or not. And at the QSR level, across restaurants, very often that requires community partnerships where you work with the local panchayats. You need to create those heroes. And the minute a village, okay, in the interiors of Andhra and Telangana sees that first hero, and the family actually tastes or experiences that financial independence, you know, they are okay to defer the age of getting married as well, right? Because she now feeds two more, enables someone else's education, helps them take that loan, has an ESIC PF which gets that father the cataract operation, and she becomes their first hero. And that opens up possibility. And very often this is the way to open up these villages, and it then becomes a frequent flow because then you've built their brand trust and they're okay to recommend their women into your fold. So that's worked very well for us, especially down south.
We have 6, 7, 8 minutes left, right? If tomorrow morning the Economic Times or Indian Express needs to run a headline, right? Gaurav, I'll start with you. What 2 or 3 measured strategies can the hospitality industry adopt to meet? Maybe the first headline can come from you. What should be that headline? If you have to advocate everybody listening to us, right? From a hospitality education perspective, we were doing our bit, but from an industry, from a collective industry, what should the headline be? That one headline, what absolute necessary change needs to happen according to you to attract either at the 12th standard level, grade 12 level, graduation level, post-graduation level?
So, I have again 2 points to make on this. The first would be differentiated remuneration reward as far as talent is concerned. The sector has an abysmal record in terms of rewarding those 10% who run the entire organization. We need to understand, and when the time comes, we shouldn't go back and talk about performer gets 12% and a non-performer gets 8 or 9. Second thing, we need to understand this is not an egalitarian society. We are hard-nosed professionals. You understand, respect, and you ring-fence talent. That's the second one. The third, today, when you're scaling businesses, you need to understand and leverage partnerships. You need to step out of your own ecosystem and understand, are there people who are subject matter experts who can actually tie up with you and take your efforts to another level? To give you an example, as part of our community outreach program, and why I'm referring to that, because that becomes a great reserve for you to actually hire in future. We used to do an abysmal 1,000 people training of people from marginalized society as way of our community outreach program. With the advent of ESG and social aspect of ESG kicking in big time, we could align our efforts and understood that with one great initiative we could actually tick multiple boxes. We have today 32 skilling centers in India, right from Kupwara to Ekta Nagar, which is the last one that we opened. We are close to about training 10,000 marginalized youths in the art of hospitality. We are looking at scaling these skilling centers from 32 to about 50 by next year. We have great partnerships with Tata Strive, with HDFC Bank, with Head Held High, an NGO, with the Richa Foundation, with other Tata Group companies, so on and so forth. We also hire back post-training people in our skilling centers, and our rate of hiring them back is close to 15 to 20%. I would also very strongly urge and encourage people to relook at their cadre building programs. One issue is talent, the other is how do you actually align that particular talent to kind of culture that you like to speak of. As we speak, we have 17 cadre building programs. We churn out about 1,200 people out of these structured programs every year. It also caters to our requirement of other functions where talent is becoming a serious issue. Financial controllers, accountants, revenue managers, AI, an interface between digital and HR today. There's a lot of expectation of organizations to actually hold HR responsible for the kind of investments they have been able to do in technology. And what is the level of adoption of that particular technology in order to be able to create a personalized experience for your associates? How do you account for your technology adoption for learning and development initiatives, so on and so forth?
Thanks. Just because of the paucity of time, any top-up, any last message? Yeah.
I think we sit on a wealth of experience. If we are willing to challenge ourselves, disrupt the way we have functioned, we run a mini MBA across hospitality. You have entrepreneurs being made. Are you willing to make them in a shorter curve of time? Can you take a youth and make them a P&L owner in 2 to 3 years vis-a-vis the 10 to 14 years that was done traditionally? You will see interest. And it's about that clarity. So tomorrow if you have to run a headline saying entrepreneurial program, free, sponsored, and give them the educational stamp certification at the end of it.
Hospitality, education.
You've got India's youth with you, irrespective of which sector you are with.
True.
I think that's the way I would.
Thanks, thank you. My headline would be hospitality education is the foundational pillar upon which the experience economy will be built. Any last words, Anjali?
Or Anjali?
I think it's important for us to go out there and tell the rest of the industries that anything to do with guest interface, customer care, you come to us, because the soft skills that we train people with, and you use those employees, those people, you really kind of, that's the existence, right? That customer care part. So we need to actually do that exchange. That's very important. We need to have that parity with the rest of the industry.
Yeah.
Whether it is aviation, whether it is retail, it is important.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I started the discussion by saying we have seen certain giant leaps in some places. In my opinion, big, bold, giant steps are the only way forward. Unless we don't manage the perception upstream, the downstream, which is the industry, will never benefit. Never. There will be a catch-up game. Unless we don't future shock ourselves, our future we will be shocked by it. And as I said, I don't want to sound alarmist here, but I think this confluence of education and the industry and this big picture is the need of the hour for the youth of India, for us to grow from 4 to 7, and for our hospitality graduates to lead this experience economy. Thank you. Thank you, Diya. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Anjali. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are just on time. If there are any questions, I'm not sure. I can't see it. Time's up. And there are no questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One thing I will conclude. You spoke about soft skills, hospitality professionals, and this is for my Indian audience. दिल में आते हैं, समझ में नहीं. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to?